So I think I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. Today what I want to emphasize is motivation. I think I'm going to shift a lot of these to motivationals, as I'm still going to use scriptural references throughout. It's more or less going to be for context and understanding. There's a massive debate about Genesis 1 to Genesis 2 being two completely different creation stories. And in context, I think they could be. We all know in history class and in school, they teach us that there were other forms of two-legged humanoids, or upright two-legged humanoids that walked around. All the way back from, Lucy, which is 1.3 million years ago. Upright walking female, very small, hobbit-like, if you will. And then, of course, you have the entire range moving all the way up to the spectrum, all the way up to Homo erectus, and you have Neanderthals and things like that. Well, they would have been the originating man, if you would. The ancestors or the elders to man. I would say here, potentially, the reference could be sons of God at that point. But you have to take into context, in chapter 2, God creates man in his image. In Genesis 1, man already exists, but now man becomes like God in his image. God is the spirit of life. He is not spoken of as a physical being. It says the Spirit of God was over the waters. The Spirit itself. And in its physical form, we're told that it's not visible in this period of the scriptures this early. I digress. We see that the Spirit of God is an intelligent being, or an intelligent spirit, and is not bound like the rest of the elements at this point. This spirit is able to change the elements, put the elements together, put the pieces together. Now, if man was created already, if man was upright, and we have history that shows it, and that's the end of Genesis chapter 1. And they needed to replenish the earth. That means there was a destruction before this. This is cyclical. It happens. It's a revolving cycle. Day after day after day, a day of rest, and then the new week begins. If the word shall always live on, the Spirit of God shall always live on. This Spirit of life will live on one way or another. In Genesis chapter 2, we see that now everything is being described. Everything had been created, it had been thought up, it had been blueprinted. Then we see that intelligent man arrives out of a garden. Intelligent man was more cunning than all the beasts of the field. This intelligent man could think outside the bounds of natural law or nature. He was not confined to say, the ant, who doesn't need an overseer. He doesn't need guidance, or she in its context. She gathers what she needs, and that's it. This intelligent man was not bound by that natural instinct. There was something else here. There was an intelligence here where he began to think and evolve as nature had, as it's written, if you read the context. So once man could think in his mind freely and make full-blown decisions without being bound as an animal who wakes up, they go eat, they go clean themselves, they go reproduce, and they repeat this cycle year after year after year after year after year. Man became the adversary to nature the moment he realized there was a part of it he could not have. And then he began to figure out how to achieve this without being caught doing it. Man, at that time, became the adversary to the spirit of life, to God. Intelligent life. So once Eve came along, however that may have happened, and ironically enough, there's a movie my daughter watches, and it's The Croods. And as I haven't been as much of a Disney fan, this one kind of struck me in my spiritual journey. Because if I were to look at this in the context of Genesis, you have a really clear picture of how this account in human history, that is the book of Genesis, which is not the first creation account in history. There are Sumerian texts that are much older than the written Hebrew scriptures, where Judaism and Islam and Christianity today obtain their origins. We can, if you will read outside the context of how a common modern day church tells you to understand it, in which verses to read, and you actually read it in character. You read it as an actor in a script. You put the emphasis in, you use the punctuation, you find the emotion, because this provides a completely different context and understanding, and really helps our intelligent minds process what's written here. It is all parable. Any aspect of it can be taken literally and metaphorically. We are our own greatest enemy as humans, because we are intelligent. That intelligence can be used for so much good, but it can also be used for so much evil, bad, adversarially. This is probably one of the most in-our-face concepts that we are so clouded from because of the mysticism and imagination that is programmed into us when we are raised up in these environments to believe these things. But if we were to look at them in their simplest context, we can see a process of evolution. God created man, male and female, or God created male and female created he, them, and he said, now go out and replenish the earth. You have to ask yourself a question. I can't nail down a position in Genesis that says Eve was not allowed in the garden. It says Adam was cast out of the garden. But we also have Cain, who went out into the world and then took for him a wife. Well, if he went out into the world away from the garden and took for himself a wife, where did this wife come from? Because it wouldn't have been Eve, and it does not yet say that man had daughters. Because it does say when the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were fair, they took for them wives all they chose. We can, in humanity today, in society today, in the world today, we could agree that compared to the renderings we have from pre-Homo sapien man, the women of today, or the women of man, Adam, intelligent man, are much fairer than the depictions we see of pre-Homo sapien humanoids, correct? Whole lot less waxing needed today. The point I'm trying to get in this first motivational is, man believes that this whole serpent and talking snake, is never called a snake. He was called a serpent. Well, men are snakes today. Men are serpents today. They're vipers. Humans today are vipers. They're snakes. They'll bite the crap out of you and not even care, and they'll keep going. The venom will stay along, and most of the time it eats people up inside. Our words destroy worse than weapons today. PTSD, depression, suicide, these things plague our existence more than any weapon of war today. Put on your armor. Put your mentality where sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will not hurt me. We are intelligent enough to know that words can destroy more than any nuclear weapon. The words of history do this every day. Forget the telephone game. If someone says something to you, man, I'm 34. I was in high school when Jay-Z came out with, you might know what I'm talking about. Brush it off. Brushing it off is turning the other cheek. Because they used to teach me all the years that I was in group homes and foster care, that people can say what they want. It still shouldn't change what's in here, or the good that's in here. People say things to people because they're already mad. And most of the time, people are mad at somebody else. But you're the closest target because they know you. If you want things to change, if you want things to be better, the first change is here. But you can't change this without this. These two have to be in sync. We all know how to love. We all know how to care about each other. But we think we're only supposed to love and care about the garments we're wrapped in when we're children, because those were the only things we had at that time. Those were all we knew. The whole world could agree that everything we knew changed in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, everything changed in 2020. So we know things are not permanent. This life is not permanent. We do have to make the best of it. But the only way we can make this work is if we do it together. Because when someone's by themselves, they're lonely. Loneliness produces depression and anxiety and feelings that there may be people there that care, but those people can't understand what's wrong with the rest of us. Because just like us, we don't realize that they face the same, if not worse, problems of their own, or everybody has the same amount of problems, they're just facing their problems in a different way. A different circumstance. Don't let words kill you. Turn the other cheek and act like you didn't hear it. I'll have more coming soon. God bless. Peace be upon you.